Welcome to How Adoption Works. I'm Joseph Sandigato, Director of Communications and Public Relations for MARE. How Adoption Works are shorter episodes including frequently asked questions and topics that we don't cover on the main AdoptED podcast. We're kind of supposed to move this along, and it's supposed to be quick, so without further ado, I'd like to welcome back Ricardo Franco, Director of Family Support Services, to the studio. Welcome back, Ricardo.
Thank you, Joe. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here, and I'm actually happy to have you here for this topic. So today's topic, I simply put as other types of adoption.
Sure.
But we spend an awful lot of time talking about the phase of adoption that we work in, which is foster care adoption. But I know that you and your team oftentimes receive questions from people, early on in the process, as part of the process,
Yes.
with regard to the other types of adoption. I know for social media, I get a lot of requests about that, right? So I thought today you and I could have a little bit of a discussion about what those other types of adoption are other than foster care adoption.
Yeah.
Sound like a
Well,
plan?
yeah, of course.
Okay.
Foster care adoption is also called public adoption,
Right.
whereas domestic infant adoption is called private adoption.
Right.
So the main difference, like in the first one, you are working with the Department of Children and Families. In the other one, you are not part of the foster care system. You are working with a private agency, and you are mostly inquiring about the adoption of an infant.
And the thing that makes it public or private is where the guardianship or the parental piece lies, right?
Yeah.
So with the department, when a child enters care, guardianship is granted to the department during the phase where the child is with the department, right? But when we're talking about private adoption, that's more what people might think of in terms of a mother who decides that she wants to carry her baby, but wants to put the baby up for adoption, right? I mean, like very common parlance, right, is how that would manifest
itself.
itself.
The biological mother makes an adoption plan and then relinquish her parental rights.
Right.
And then an agency is involved in helping to recruit for families for this particular child.
Sure.
And so this is the main difference. You're working directly with an agency that is kind of like negotiating between the adoptive family and the biological family, whereas in foster care adoption, you are talking about working with DCF. So DCF is not involved at all with this type of adoption.
Gotcha.
And so this is the first thing. And the other thing, Joe, what is really important for families to know that there's a big difference in terms of fees.
Mm-hmm.
When you are working with public adoption through foster care is completely free from this financial cost.
Right.
Here we are talking about not hundreds, but thousands of dollars.
Sure.
So because there are legal fees involved, they have to work with the lawyers. There are a lot of medical.
Right. Because that's not uncommon in private adoption for. I know, so experientially through people who I know who have gone that route, I understand a couple of things. Number one, sometimes there's differences in the way that the connections are made and what the expectations are. Number two, there's legal fees typically, sometimes on both sides, but certainly on the adoption side, but they could also include legal fees depending upon the arrangement to separate a child from their parents. There may be some medical needs covered.
Even before the adoption, sometimes biological mothers, before they give birth of the child that you're going to make a plan for adoption, they make arrangements with the family to pay some bills.
Right.
For
care.
Care. So that's part of the agreement. So that's what, and also the part of legal part. You want to be sure that all the legal pieces are in place, so that has a cost.
Right. Okay. So that takes us from public domain that we work in to private, sort of infant.
Yeah.
What other types of adoption?
Well, before you move to that one, there are two things that people need to know if they want to know more about those agencies, because there are private agencies that work with this type of adoption here. Here in Massachusetts, they can check the website of the Department of Early Education and Care.
Right.
This is the agency or the state department that regulates all the agencies that have a license for adoption related services. So it's the Department of Early Education and Care. And also the Adoption Community of New England, ACON. They have a lot of resources for family for more specific questions about domestic infant adoption.
Okay, great. So that's domestic infant.
Yes.
All right. What else do we have to think about?
Well, let's think about now what is called inter-country or international adoption.
Right.
Is another type of adoption. In this case, you have a new component because pretty much when you are doing domestic infant adoption, you are working with an immigration process.
Right, right.
And that has a lot of ramifications, implications. Of course, we are talking about the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of
Secretary of State's office, right?
Yeah. So you are working with a lot of more, I would say, complicated issues and regulations. But of course, every year hundreds of kids are adopted from other countries, from families from the United States. So the first thing you need to know is that you need to know that this type of adoption is regulated by the Department of State, and you have to be sure that the country in which you are interested to adopt from is part of the Hague Convention of Protection of Children.
Right.
Or if it's another country, it has to have a kind of agreement with the United States for orphan adoption.
And that,
or also, if it's through family-based petition, could be also, but you have to work with a lawyer, no doubt about it.
And I know in following this over the past couple of decades that those numbers have gone down significantly. The Secretary of State's office in particular has systematically reduced the number of options, and really the number of children who are coming in through the international adoption is down quite a bit, right?
Yes, and I will advise families to be really careful. I have heard so many stories from families who call us saying that they did a home study for international adoption with this agency who knows where.
Right.
And they have spent thousands and thousands of dollars. They made trips to wherever
they had to go.
And nothing happened. So pretty much they are just being abused.
Taking advantage. That's
of.
Too bad.
So there are ways to do this, but you have to be really well informed. So I would recommend that you go to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security website.
Okay.
And
good
search
starting
for adoption.
place.
And you will have all the regulations and all the things. And for sure, you will have to have legal advice because this is something that implies a lot of legal issues in terms of immigration.
Yeah, and in terms of cost, we could say that public adoption is free and probably the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
Do we then stack it domestic and then international is the highest?
Adoption, yeah.
Okay.
I would say in that order.
Great. Well, this was very informative, and this was really a super quick primer on the difference, but really the kind of conversation you would have with someone if they were just starting the process and really wanted more information. ACON you gave as a resource, certainly the Secretary of State's office.
The Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah. Great. That's a pretty quick primer on the types of adoption outside of public adoption. And so I want to thank Ricardo for co-hosting today. I'm glad that we got to spend more time in the studio, and I'm sure our listeners always enjoy hearing from your voice of experience. And thank you as well to all of our listeners. For more information about anything that we covered on today's show, please visit our website at mareinc.org. We appreciate your investment in our show. And just remember, if you like us, one of the best things you can do to help keep us going with the work is to listen, rate us on your platform of choice, and share with others who would benefit from the content. And if you have a show topic for either the main podcast or these shorter episodes, please email me at joe@mareinc.org. I'd love to hear from you. This is Joe Santagato from Mayor wishing you a wonderful day, and thanks for listening.